Assalamu alaikum. I appreciate I got your Cash App money coming. Let me first just begin. I know it's been a long night, and I know a lot of people in here probably sleepy and ready to go home. So let me just jump into it. I was going to say a lot before I even got into my story. I want to first thank Allah, first and foremost. That's necessary for having this opportunity to be here with you. I want to definitely also thank AMHP for their generosity and their confidence in having me to say a few words at this 20-year anniversary gallery, for all the work that they've done. And I want to thank you for coming out in solidarity to support the work that they do. So give yourselves a round of applause. I was asked to speak about my journey as it pertains to the subject of mental health / mental illness. And as I said, I was going to say some more things, but I'm just going to get into the story. And if I end up coming to those things, fine. If not, so be it. But I think this is one of the most urgent issues. People talk about a lot of other issues, right? And there are a lot of them out there. But I think this is one of the most urgent issues in our day and time to tackle. Everybody has a mind. There used to be an old commercial back in the day. I think it was the American Negro College Fund. It said the mind is a terrible thing to waste, right? And I forget, excuse my bad with names, with the sister that was speaking earlier, and she was talking about how, and I think this country alone, I don't know if it's leading the world or it's very high in terms of suicide rates, right? Things are not getting better at all. They're getting worse. And they said it's unprecedented in terms of never in the history have so many young people, right, been wanting to, kill themselves or, do harm to themselves. And so there's a crisis, out there in terms of mental health. And I know you know this, but I just wanted to mention that. And I look at myself growing up in Mississippi, in the ghetto, with a mother with an 8th grade education, also having a disorder that I had no idea. I knew I had something, but there was not a name for it until I got into the 11th grade. And so I could have been one of those casualties, like so many other casualties out there. And I'm just grateful to Allah that I was blessed, even though I didn't grow up in a Muslim household. I'm indebted to my grandmother, I'm indebted to my uncle in particular, and I'm indebted to my aunt for always teaching me the value of there's a higher source that we have to rely on. And there was something else that they would tell me about. They said, God gives everybody a strength, and everybody has a weakness, but he gives you a strength to overcome that weakness, and you have to find out what that is. And we, as Muslims, we say a lot too, and I'm not in the story yet, but we say a lot, Allah's not going to give us a burden that we can't bear. And, as a Muslim, I'm so grateful. This is the best gift that has ever happened to me, ever. No MBA, no fame, no wealth. Just becoming Muslim and just understanding, even at an elementary level, what Allah talks about in the Quran. As I read it, Allah tells us, most surely will I try you through hunger, loss of lives, worldly goods, and labor's fruits, but give good news to those who are patient in adversity. For when they're confronted with calamities, they say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Verses where Allah says, the strong believer is better than the weak believer. I don't give you a burden that you can't bear. I'm looking at all of this, and I started to apply that. Before I became Muslim, I was blessed with that philosophy, so to speak, but Islam just magnified it, right, when I became a Muslim. And for me, what helped me, and I'm not in the story yet, but what helped me throughout my life up to this day, because we all have thoughts, right? You talk about the stigmatization, right, of mental health, and how we should destigmatize it, how people should feel safe to be able to talk and deal with these issues. It's been a long night. I was blessed to grow up in a family that, you know, like I said, when you're always looking, the methodology of the Quran, and I started applying it to my life more and more. Wherever Allah, you know, someone said to me before, when you point your finger, there's three pointing back at you. But wherever Allah mentions a struggle or a hardship, He always reinforces it with something good. And so this became my philosophy as a young man when I would get hit with something so heavy that it would almost devastate me. You know, Allah, I do a lot of self-talk. Even as a young boy in elementary school, self-talk became a ritual for me, right? When you get hit with something, you know, hey, God said He won't give you a burden you can't bear. He's giving me this for a reason, to elevate me, right? To teach me something, right? And so this has been my philosophy, and this is the methodology of Quran. So let me go back. I grew up in Mississippi. I grew up in a single-parent home. I was fortunate to play 9 years in the NBA. And at a young age, we all have aspirations and dreams of trying to make it. And when you're young, you're always told things like, the sky's the limit, you can be whatever you want to be, right? But as you get older, you realize it's not as easy as they say. There's a lot of relationships, there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of race, there's a lot of things that goes on in life that you didn't know. And I knew that at that age, at that young age, I wanted to be great. Who doesn't, right? We all have these dreams and aspirations. But I didn't grow up in a family. As I said, my mother had an 8th grade education, so I didn't see academics as a way out for me. Literally, I mean, I just didn't see where academics, we want to be rich, we want to be famous, we want to be able to take care of our families. And so academics wasn't that way for me. And even if it was, I wasn't in an environment to where I was being taught critical thinking skills. I was being taught problem solving. Again, my mother had an 8th grade education, so there's only so much a person can give you. They can't give you what they don't have. And so at that young age, I grew up with an inferiority complex. I grew up feeling that I was inadequate. But I knew that I was gifted with natural abilities, fast twitch muscles, I was quick, I was athletic. And I knew that if I was going to have a chance at making it someday, I'd have to put don't put all your marbles in one basket. But that's exactly what I did. And I would, at 9, 10 years old, I said, man, if I'm going to make it, right, this is going to have to be it. And this is going to have to be life or death for me. It was a game. You know, some of us, we play basketball and sports because it's fun. I enjoyed it. But also it was torturous for me. Because again, I had Tourette syndrome. But I wasn't diagnosed to the 11th grade. So I'm going through all of this twitching. I'm hitting things hard. If it doesn't feel right, I gotta keep hitting it. I would do stuff like that. And if my mind and body weren't on the same page, I had to keep doing it until it felt perfect. Like even doing this right here, it hurts, right? But if I hit it and it didn't roll off my knuckles correctly, I'd have to do it again and do it again until it felt perfect in my mind. You know, and I decided at that age, I said, you know, I'm gonna start waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? I wanna be the best to ever play the game. This is my mindset. And I want to give myself the best chances of making it. That's what I wanted. But Tourette syndrome is another monster in and of itself. Waking up in the morning by itself, just to get up out of the bed and to get to the basketball court, may take about an hour, hour and a half, because as I'm getting up, I had to psych myself up every day. Because I knew the moment I woke up and I moved, I may have to repeat, I'm in the bed just sitting there twisting my body. I'm holding my breath, I'm tensing up. Some days it felt and I don't want to do it now because it hurts, but I would pop my neck so hard, throw my arms out, feel like I was like hyperextending my elbows. And it would sometimes feel like my brain was hitting my skull. And it would feel like I was about to have an aneurysm. So I would just sometimes getting up out of the bed, I would get out the bed, sit back down, get out the bed, sit back down, because it didn't feel right. Everything has to be on the same page. I would put my shorts on, take them off. Shorts on. You imagine doing this every single day just to get up and go to the basketball court. So I'm not going to explain every little step. But now I'm finally outside, and I'm dribbling the basketball. And the basketball court is this way, about 5 blocks. So as I'm dribbling, whatever move I'm doing, right? Whatever I do to the right, I got to do to the left. If it doesn't feel right, if I mess up about 2-3 times and I'm headed in this direction, I have to back up in the opposite direction 10 steps. So whatever I'm doing, I got to keep doing it. It may take me 45 minutes to get to the basketball court. I get to the basketball court. I had this drill, and I would always envision invisible people that I'm playing against. And I would always envision that they were this close to the basketball. I'm just moving, and I'm trying to get my shot off. I'm imagining getting hit. I'm doing this every single day, 9, 10 years old. Why am I doing this? Because I feel that if I don't make it in basketball, my life is over. I don't have anything else to fall back on. This is what I'm good at. Because I didn't see a future for myself in any other thing. And that's painful. The older I became, I started to see things differently, obviously. But you're talking about doing this every single day. And I would work out so hard that it would, I don't know if you've ever worked out so hard where you can't catch your breath. And then all of a sudden your breath leaves you and you're happy you caught it. And then tears are rolling down your face because you're terrified. Like that, you could have died because you're pushing yourself that hard. Almost every day that I trained felt like I was flirting with death. And I'm not exaggerating. Even when I think about it now, 55 years old, it's a miracle that I survived it. Because I would wake up in the morning, I'm like, man, I have tears in my eyes. I'd be like, I don't feel like doing this. Every single morning, because I knew what I'd have to put my body through. And it's sad because the older I got, when you grow up in a family, I used to say this all the time, I still do, your environment has a way of molding and shaping you. The information that you hear, the information that you don't hear, the images that you see, the images that you don't see, they begin to shape you as a human being. Right? You're going to either see a bright future or you're not going to see much of one at all, depending on what you're having access to. And so here it is. I'm going through, and I may ask you if you're listening to me, what's the last thing I just said?
Your environment shapes you. You shape your environment. You're shaped by your environment.
Oh, thank you. I need that because it has been a long day. Your environment has a way, right, of molding. Your environment has a way of molding and shaping you. And so, oh man, let me skip. I got 6 minutes left. Okay, alhamdulillah. I would get to the gym. I mean, I would be on the basketball court, and every day was like I was flirting with death every single day. And again, I'm not exaggerating. At the end of the workout may take me about an hour to get to the gym. I mean, the basketball court, it may take me another hour and a half to finish that workout. Now, mind you, I didn't care if it was raining outside. It could be thunder and lightning. I mean, literally, it would be dark. The rain would be coming down. I was so determined to make it for me that I was oblivious to that. I'm walking out like the sun is shining every day because I knew that if I didn't make it in basketball, my life was over. I don't know what my life was going to say for itself. After training, at the end of the training session, Tourette syndrome would step in. It's like, now you got to play me. Now I'm already, I'm breathing hard. I'm ready to go home. But it wouldn't let me go home. Because if I would have left before finishing, and this is why I would wake up mostly every morning like, man, I don't feel like going. Because it scared me. Because I said, man, I could die today. Right? Because of how it pushed me. I would have to finish a drill, and my mind would say, you have to make 10 shots. And all of these 10 shots have to go in without touching the rim. You have to do them full speed. The move that you're making prior to taking that shot could have no glitches in it or it don't count. So imagine a 9, 10 year, and you getting the ball. I mean, you going full speed. If you slow down, you cheated. I could make 9 shots in a row. None of them hit rim. The 10th shot skims the rim, but it goes in. I can't retake the 10th shot and say 10. I have to start back at 0. That drill may take another hour just to make those 10. I finally finish. I'm walking off the court dribbling. If I mess up 2, 3 times, I have to back up where I came. This happened almost daily. I'm looking under the goal. I have to shoot it. And I'm like, man, I don't want to shoot it. Because if it don't go in the way I wanted to go in, I have to do that same drill twice. So that's 3 workouts. And I have to do it full speed again. This was a daily practice for me. And it almost killed me every single day. I had to get to the point where when I finally finished that 10-shot drill, after the hour and a half, I had to take the ball and I had to throw it towards my house. That way, when I finally got the basketball and I'm dribbling and I mess up and I have to back up, I'm too far from the court to have to do it again for 3 times. I had to improvise. So as I did this year in and year out, I'm a bypass. I go through high school, I'm breaking records. I'm in junior high school breaking records. As Preacher Ma said, we ended up playing Georgetown at LSU one of those years. But I ended up going to a camp. How many of you know Michael Jordan? I went to a basketball camp. I missed the previous year. It's a long story because of a situation that was happening in Mississippi, people hiding your college letters because they wanted you to go to a specific school. Well, I got wind that I was invited to a Nike camp, prestigious camp in Princeton, New Jersey, 110 of the top players in the nation. And that particular year, I was going into the 11th grade and or 12th. I went 2 years in a row. Michael Jordan was there one year. I can remember like it was yesterday. Look, I'm about what? They list me at 6'1". For years, I would say I'm 6'1" because it sounds good. But after my career and I look back and after all of the accomplishments, I'm really 5'11 and a half. 6 feet with shoes on. I said, it sounds better to do all of that at 5'11 and a half than 6'1", so I'm 5'11 and a half. But when I was at Princeton, New Jersey, I was sitting on the bleachers. Michael Jordan was like this close. And it was 110 of us in the stands. And out of all the people there, he looks at me. He points me out. He said, come on out here, young fella. And I'm looking at him, and I ain't never seen a body like that in my life. I mean, this dude was, when I say he was cut up, like cut, and he was black, and he had lotion on. So he was like, you could see the fibers in his legs. And the whole time I'm looking at him, I'm sizing him up, not in an arrogant way. I'm like, man, this dude is like ripped. Is that the way I gotta look? And that's how I gotta be to get to that level. And he calls me out on the basketball floor. And he hands me the basketball. Now remember, I've been practicing all of these years with invisible people in my head. 2, 3 invisible people. Wherever I went, they were always this close. And I gotta get the ball off. I'm imagining getting hit. I'm doing this every day. I've always thought when I was young, your imagination is the strongest thing you have. If I can create space with my imagination, a human being can't stay with you like your imagination can. So here it is. Jordan hands me the ball. He said, I want you to come at me, young fella, with everything you have, and I'm going to try to stop you. I said, okay. And I got the ball, and I gave a jab step, and I took off left. And when I took off, when I say Jordan, he's competitive. Pow! He switched, he came, and if I would have went straight up, he's 6'6", he would have had it. So I ran through the goal. So I don't know if I'm running, I'm just running through, and I just took something off of it. I scored on him. They went crazy. My insides went crazy, but outwardly I was, like I do this all the time. But inside, man, I was like, I just scored on Michael Jordan. But you can't let people see that. You want to make them think, I do this all the time. But not with an arrogance. So I'm thinking it's over. He gives me the ball again. Like, uh-oh. So he bounces it in front of me this time. Instead of establishing a pivot foot, when he bounces it, I land on both. And I have this one staggered to give him like I'm going to do the same move. This time, I just go through my legs, and I lean. Bop. He bites. I cross him over, score him on the other side. The ball comes out of the goal. He asks me for the ball, and then he tells me, go sit down. After that, I said to myself, man, I sat there on the bench, and I was having a conversation with myself. And I said, man, I just scored on Michael Jordan twice. And I said, it was easy. I said, wait till I go tell my boys, man, they ain't gonna believe it. But what it did, what has motivated me more than I've ever been motivated before. You thought I was working hard then. I started working hard. I started working harder because I said, man, I want this feeling all the time. Now I'm getting ready to shift. I end up going to LSU. At LSU, they had me on Haldol. I know we have doctors in here, right? They had me on Haldol when I was in high school. I was 155 pounds beginning of my senior year. We play about 40 games a year. I play most of the minutes. At high school, we play all year, like even in the summer. At the end of that season, or the end of my high school, I went from 155 to 182 or 185. Because Haldol had me, and I didn't notice it until we started doing the book. That's why it says, by the grace and mercy of Allah, how I was raised and taught to think, right? You're given these challenges, but hey, think solution-based, right? God ain't gonna give you this without a reason. Somebody told me, and maybe you can tell me if it's true or not, they said, do you know what Haldol is? I said, no. They said it's a psychotic drug. What's that? It sedates you. I always, when I wasn't moving, he said they give it to like certain people to calm them down. I was sleepy in class. If we were going through it, and if I wasn't moving, the coach started coaching a little bit too long, I'd be on the court drowsy. I wanted to eat, drink, and sleep constantly. I ended up failing the SAT or ACT, I can't remember which one it was in Mississippi, by 1 point. Then I failed it by 3 points. Because of my condition, they allowed me to take it in private with someone there. Again, by the grace and mercy of Allah, this particular lady, I love her for it. Because my whole thing with educational system is a whole nother conversation. But I'm in the room, and I'm marking, and every now and then, I don't know how she did it, every now and then, I would mark an answer. She would say, you sure that's the answer you want? I'd erase it. She didn't tell me what it was directly. I'd do it again. When she didn't say anything, that meant it was right. She let me go. I know she was allowing me to miss some, too. And every now and then she'd be like, you sure that's the one you want? And I ended up passing the SAT by 1 point. I went to LSU. As I'm at LSU, they sent me, I don't know if they do this now. They were assessing where I needed to be in terms of where I needed to be placed in class. This was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. I'm at LSU in the beginning, and I could read my butt off. I could spell words. But again, I didn't grow up in a family where we were taught critical thinking skills and problem solving and all of that. So I just memorized my way through school just to make it. School to me was just a transition to get to the pro. That was how my mind was. It wasn't really to learn anything. I was just memorizing. They put me in this class and they had me reading something. I'm reading, man, I sound real good. Then they started asking me questions, say, what does this word mean? I don't know. So what does this word mean? I don't know. They kept asking and asking. Then they said, well, what do you get out of the story? I said, I don't know. I was just reading. Wasn't thinking, nothing. I'm at LSU on a cover of Sports Illustrated. I'm breaking records. I'm on the cover of all these magazines. When you see me, you see a guy that looks confident because I'm in my element, right? I'm personable, I'm all of that. This is just how I was brought up. But I had a lot of insecurities inside of me, especially when it came to academics and other areas. While I'm breaking records, the world didn't know they had me in the corner at LSU in a little small room in a remedial reading class. I had to learn how to read all over again. Not read per se words, but define words. Pick the moral out of the story. Read between the lines. I had to go through that. Dale Brown, while I was at LSU, gave me a book that would change my life forever. He gave me the autobiography of Malcolm X. I never heard of who Malcolm was, right? But I remember, and this is the thing that changed my life even more, because we all struggle with thoughts and ideas. And I would say this, that I'm grateful that I never got to the point where I thought about, okay, taking my life, but I did get to the point where I was like, Allah, if you take my life now, I ain't gonna complain, because you just tired. Life beats you down. You just, like, I ain't gonna do it, but if you take me now, I'm good. This is how I was feeling. This is how I was feeling at the time. What's the last thing I just said? Because it's been a long night before I said that.
Allah, if you take me now, I'm good.
Before that.
Reading in the room.
There you go, mashallah. So I was reading. He gave me the autobiography of Malcolm. I don't mind asking the audience what I just said. Just know that. But I'm breaking all of these records. I remember going to play a game in Florida. When I was in Florida, I was a freshman. They said it was 10 minutes I didn't shoot the ball. At the end of the game, I had scored 53 points. They were the #1 team in the SEC. I'm this small boy from Mississippi. You know, we didn't have any names at the time that I knew of people that ever made it out of Mississippi, big in the NBA. And so here it is at the end of the game. I walk into the locker room, assistant coach is shaking me, man, you just scored 53 points. They want to talk to you outside. I said, oh, I didn't even know, because I'm just playing. I'm having fun. I go out. We just beat them. As I'm walking out of the tunnel, soon as I get out, and the crowd hadn't even left. And I'm in their arena, and they give me a standing ovation. I get chills. They interview me. I go into this room. It was about maybe 200. It looked like 200 journalists in the room. They're interviewing me. But the whole time while I'm being interviewed, what they didn't know, I was scared. I was terrified. I get on the bus. I'm looking out the window. I'm crying like you would have thought I just got news that my mother had passed away. Why am I crying? Like, I'm terrified. Why? Your environment has a way of molding and shaping you. I always felt that stuff like this was too good to be true. Something gonna happen. I'm gonna get hit by a car, the plane gonna crash, because things like this don't happen to, like things like this don't happen to people like me. It didn't dawn on me until later, after becoming Muslim. I started reading everything you can put in my hands. And I started coming across information, right? And I think the worst thing you can do to a person is to deny them a knowledge of who they are and their history, because you become susceptible to someone else's interpretation of who you are, and they don't always have your best interest. There's a saying that don't let someone else's perception of you become your reality, right? And so this is, what did I just say?
Don't let someone else's perception.
Before that.
You're crying, you're on the bus.
Crying on the bus. I'm literally thinking to myself, we get on the plane. The plane is, sometimes the turbulence is this way. Turbulence is doing this, it's thundering and lightning. I said, man, I knew it. I knew it. It's too good to be true. I was this close getting off the plane and asking Dale Brown, Coach, could I want to play, but can I just play home games? I don't want to travel no more. But you're used to fighting through things constantly, right? I said, no, I gotta find a way. I gotta find a way to fight through this. And my mind is in and out. I apologize. What was I saying?
The plane. On the plane, turbulence.
Before that?
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X? No, before that. Malcolm X?
On the bus.
On the bus. Come on, Mahmoud.
Ovation.
Huh?
Standing ovation. Things like this don't happen to people like
There you go. MashaAllah. Help me, because it's been a long night. Things like this don't happen to people like me. How many of you heard of Sanford and Son and Good Times? I started recalling a lot of things, right? What were you watching? What were you listening to? Your environment has a way of molding and shaping you, right? And I said, every time we would watch a show, Sanford and Son, Good Times, they grew up in some of the same socioeconomic situations that I grew up in. As a child, we would watch that all the time, and we were always rooting that they made it out the ghetto. And we're sitting there, right? Oh, they about to make it, they about to make it. And every show, something happens to kick them right back in the ghetto. And if you've been fed this day in and day out, it's going to have an effect on you and how you see yourself and how you see the world around you. And I said to myself, man, this is why when I was on that bus, I was crying. This is why I felt the plane was going to crash and I was going to get in a car wreck. This is why I couldn't truly embrace success. This is why. And I knew at that point I had to change my mindset. I had to change what I was consuming day in and day out. Allah, even in the Quran, he says what? He says, be in the company of the righteous. Why does he say that? Right? Who you associate with matters. Every single day, do studies all the time. If you're not in shape, hang around people in shape. If you're not smart, hang around smart people. If you want to be an activist, hang around activists. If you want to be moral, hang around moral. Why? Because there's a language that they use day in and day out. There's a pattern of living that they use day in and day out that got them to that point. And the more you're around them, there's a tendency that it's going to rub off on you. And I said, man, I got to change what I'm consuming. I got to change what I'm watching. And so that's what I started to do. I started to do it more and more. Thank you. I started to do it more and more. And one thing led to another, as the brother said. I started making decisions that cost me my career. And I think this is one of the things. I'm going to end with this because I've been having some stumbles up here, and I thank you for your patience. But I think one of the things that when I look at my life and going through this journey of just trying to stay sane in an insane world, right? I think about all of these techniques of association, who you hang with, what you consume day in and day out. I think also about just staying in a place of gratefulness. There's a saying, I think Einstein said it, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. Also giving, because now it's just not about you. You're not just focused on you. You're so busy trying to do other things and help other people, right? You don't have time just to focus on you. And so I'm thinking about all this, but also I think about this. I think a lot of us as human beings, we live in an ecology of fear, right? There's a lot of things that's on our mind that we feel, we want to say, we want to do, but we've been conditioned, just play the game, don't say anything, be quiet. But it kills us inside. There's a saying about Waldo Emerson, wherever you go, there you are. Like you can deceive somebody else, but you can't run from yourself. You knew you were a coward. You knew you should have stood up. You knew you said something about this, right? And we don't do that enough. And I think that adds to our stress. It adds to our anxiety day in and day out. So these are some of the things for me that I constantly do. And I'm going to leave with this. There's a study that was done in the 50s at Harvard, I believe. Some of you, if you know it, don't give the answer. I promise I'm going to end on this. It's called the Hope Test, where they took some rats, right? And this is the power. There's power in what I'm saying. They took rats and they put them in a water, and they had to see how long they were going to tread water. And they treaded for about, some reports vary, but they treaded for about 15 minutes. They took them out, dried them off, let them rest. They put them back in. If you know the answer, don't say it. The next time they put them in, did they swim another 5 minutes, 15 minutes, or 30 minutes? What do you think? When they put them back in for the second time, they swam for 60 hours. What caused them to swim for 60 hours? The first time they swam, when they went under in 15 minutes, someone grabbed them. It was the hope and the belief that someone else would grab them, right? And they would be saved. And just that belief alone and that hope, right, allowed them to swim for 60 hours instead of 15 hours. And this is the power also. Yeah, there's so many other contributing factors of what leads to mental illness, right? So many. You can talk about food, you can talk about certain medicines, you can talk about racism, inequality, capitalism, wars, a lot of things. But you also have a lot of things that can save us. And so that's one of the things. Those same things that hurt, if we do it the other way, it helps. And that's one of the things. If we just nurture that belief, like Allah says, that He won't give you a burden you can't bear. And we continue to fight through these things and associate with the right types of people and change our lifestyles, inshallah, we'll have a better chance of succeeding and conquering this enemy. And so organizations like this are important to do that. And it's going to take a multifaceted approach and hitting them from all type of areas because everybody is affected by something different. And so thank you for supporting. Thank you for coming out. Forgive me for my flaws. And may Allah continue to bless you. Assalamu alaikum.